Why VR is a question that's asked a lot. For me, VR is perfect in a sense for this sort of story, because it does combine the cinematic, it combines the sonic and the aural.
We didn't know whether it was a private party or what, but there was an amazing amount of noise.
It allows us to do animation, it allows us to create volumetric and 3D space that you can actually be in. You can embody a story and really get a sense of place and environment in a way that you can't really, in my opinion, with flat, sort of just 2D cinema. That's why VR is the perfect medium for this sort of story.
Number of people have worked on this in the photography, in the capture, the game engine side, design, sound. It's a huge, huge team.
The project as a whole employs several different techniques.
We use 360 video, shooting with specialized cameras that capture a 360-degree view of the world.
Alongside that, we've also worked with University of Portsmouth on motion capture to enable us to kind of really bring to life the spirit of the era, really.
Today, particularly working with two actors and dancers, they're physical performers, being the raver crowd, as it were, and coming up with different variations and options of dance moves to have variety within this crowd scene that we're trying to create. Trying to replicate some of the moves that were in the late 80s in that rave scene and finding many options. I think we explored about 40. There's nuances, there's subtleties that are different, so it's really finding enough variety, but at the same time honouring the moves of the time. A good challenge.
They are mapped into our rave scene, which has hundreds of different sort of models in there. We worked with animators to create bespoke scenes that were fully animated.
Not necessarily a party where drugs are on offer.
Or scenes that were then composited with real live action.
So we're using a technology called object-based sound. And basically what it means is that we are able to create this 3D soundscape of sound moving around us that changes according to where you are looking or where you are standing in space. Creates a real sense of immersion and just heightens the sense of reality.
So my name's Tim Godwin. I'm a retired West Midlands police officer.
There's been a lot of experimentation around how to achieve that feeling of memory and that nostalgic feel of old videos and photographs that gives that real sense of the era, as well as giving that feeling that you are going back in time and you are visiting these actual places.
We use volumetric capture, which is where actors stand in an array of cameras that surround them.
You can capture exact poses, facial expressions in high detail and then replicate them exactly as you want them.
And those characters are seen throughout the experience, and you can come up really close to them and examine them, and they are in tableaus. And they're meant to represent sort of memories of friends. They're meant to be almost like as if you picked up an old picture in your loft and you got it out of a box. And it's like, oh, there's my friends sitting on the sofa in my old bedroom. The opening scene of In Pursuit of Repetitive Beats, it was the first bit that I wrote down, really. For me, it was just a really exciting sort of kind of dreamlike sequence to kind of invent. This scene starts with you pressing a button on a record deck. As the record starts to play, you start to fall into the record itself until you're suddenly flying down the middle of a record groove. That transitions into a motorway and you see a red Peugeot traveling down the motorway at night. You float behind it and then you go through the back window.
It's the scene that felt the most developed already and had such strong sort of visual narrative to it. We used it as the springboard for the entire rest of the experience.
That was a really exciting scene to design for because, it was able to take us on that journey into a record. It's such a musical, evocative thing, the sound of a vinyl disc spinning.
We all joked about it when we were first kind of talking to the whole team about this scene that I'd written. Everyone laughed that we were going to spend the whole budget that we had on this one scene. I even went out in my car filming 360 video of myself, trying different sort of kind of looks and feels, VHS filters, all sorts of different things.
This shoot has ended up being remarkably complicated for what is essentially just about 30 seconds of time in the grander piece.
Darren and Ash always come up with something which is slightly out of the ordinary. We're sort of on the edge, but that's what we like to do. We like to be on the edge and to create something which is something special.
The car was shot in live action in a studio with 360 camera rig.
We had to replicate the frequency of lights going past, so we had these lighting set up in the blue screen studio to simulate street lights going past.
We then had to take that footage, match move it, bring it into Houdini, and then build the three-dimensional world around it. Having shot it in a blue screen studio, we then needed to replace the outside world with an actual motorway, but not just that, also be able to create a sort of hyper-realistic vision of that.
I was always kind of worried that it was too ambitious. Where I think we've got to with that scene is it does what I wanted it to do, as much in vision and audio, but mainly in feeling. And with VR, it's really, for me, it's about feeling. It's about like, oh, this feels cool. This is going to be a good experience because it sets the tone.
It's definitely a communal experience. Even that final scene when you're in the car, I mean, just looking across and seeing, your mate there and 6, 7 a.m. after a heavy night raving. I mean, again, that's just going to be a real trigger for a lot of people.
VR, because you see someone like blinded with this device on, people think it's a very individual, singular experience. This is a connected experience.
The application of music, space, intensity, and embodiment, and the immersive nature of it gives you something that you come out, you should feel kind of really excited about.